Welcome to the Team of One podcast, where we share the story of the solopreneur by exploring different ideas from different voices so you too can create a way to live life on your own terms. My name is Mo Choice, and in this episode, I spoke to Lois, whose expertise developed from her son's early struggles and transformed into her unique approach to education. We explored how she turned this into a business, publishing her work, and then realizing the real challenge was in the marketing and the importance of connecting with the right people at the right time. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Welcome back to the Team of One podcast. Today, I'm going to be joined by Lois Letchford. Lois, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Lois Letchford. I'm the author of the book Reverse to Memoir, and I'm an educator and a speaker, and I share my knowledge of literacy and my passion for literacy for children, particularly for children who have struggled.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for making the time. Do you identify as a solopreneur?
Yes, I do.
And how do you define the term solopreneur?
You're on your own to do the writing, the marketing, the selling, the everything.
So if I had a VA, would I not be a solopreneur?
No, you're still a solopreneur. You're using all the tools available. And you have to.
If I had a content writer, would I be a solopreneur?
Most likely, yes, because you're still doing all the contact. It's your effort, isn't it?
I like it. So the way I think about it, Lois, is as long as I can make decisions without consideration of other people, then I'm a solopreneur. The minute I need to consider others, I'm not. So, someone said to me the other day, they're like, well, if you have a VA, you can't be a solopreneur. And I was like, why? They go, because the VA is doing some of the work. So do I have to cut my own hair? Do I have to fix my own car? Like, we're always going to have help in living our lives, but actually the work is me and me alone. The decisions are me and me alone. Yeah?
Yes, totally.
I love that. What inspired you to go solo?
What's the word for it? Circumstances.
Say more.
Circumstances. My husband is a professor, and we have moved around the world for his career. My career has fitted around him. So he moves, he gets the job, he goes to work, and I'm left, what do I do now? But in that process, I now have a lot of knowledge. And for most times, I've been able to work effectively. I've worked in Australia and in Texas, but now I'm in upstate New York with my husband, and I actually couldn't teach. They told me that I had to go back to school and get a teaching degree. I have an education degree from Australia, and I was teaching in Texas, but I couldn't teach in upstate New York. So what do? Sit at home and twiddle your thumbs? And I've got this enormous knowledge of teaching children to read. So I did my master's degree here. And I thought, what do I do now? I'm not going to go back and do a teaching degree. I'm 60. So my son struggled with literacy. And his story is getting better and better and better. And I said, I want to tell that story. Because the expectations when my son was 6-year-old was that he would never read and he would never write. And in 2015, when I'm making these decisions, my son has been accepted to Oxford University to do a PhD in applied mathematics.
Wow.
And teaching reading was not simple. It was not a step-by-step approach that comes in a standardized program. And to teach him, I had to get everything right. And so when I'm teaching in schools, I'm dealing with the same sort of children again. I had to get everything right. So here I am saying, how am I going to tell this story? And here's me, I'm dyslexic. And I want to write my story. And I went to writing classes and I met this young girl who said, Lois, I'll help you. And together, I did the writing, she edited it. But then I ended up with 3 editors for my book. And it's an amazing story. And the writing gets you in. And the one credit that I get from people is I couldn't put the book down. And they cry and they laugh. So that's what pushed me into being a solopreneur.
I love that. So solopreneur at 60, huh? That's a title in and of itself. Right? Because people think, oh, you know. So tell me about the early days when you realized you had to go solo and when you realized you had to carve out this new pathway that maybe was unfamiliar. What do those days look like?
Terrible. I'm working. And what money's coming in? Zero. I'm totally dependent on my husband to do everything, to do the advertising, even to pay for my editor. My husband supported me to help me get the book together. And then the big challenge for me as being a solopreneur is that everyone takes your money. And the results are usually poor to very poor.
And so the biggest struggle that you had to negotiate or the biggest obstacle you had to overcome was what? How would you frame that?
Deciding which way to go to make money. And that was private tutoring. And that was a challenge for me to shift from the book and trying to speak, because the book should have, I thought, given me more credibility. But it wasn't enough, and I didn't have enough background of educational writing, so people dismissed me unless I spoke. But I'm funding all the speaking, and it's expensive. So then I decided, and then we had a few things go wrong. I ended up shattering my collarbone and with nerve damage, and then we've had family issues, and that really pushed me into private tutoring. And the tutoring has been really great. I've been really impressed that I've been able to teach children online anywhere around the world. It worked. That's been a success.
Amazing. What was the turning point, do you reckon? Like from that struggle and not knowing and which way do I go and how do I make money? What was the thing that turned it all around?
Oh, most likely my collarbone. Because
Say
it
more.
stopped me. Sorry?
Yeah, say more about that.
My collarbone injury.
Yeah. Why is that the turning point?
I shattered my collarbone, and then when in the repair, I ended up with nerve damage, and it stopped me from working totally. Couldn't do a thing because I was in so much pain. I was doing a podcast, I was promoting my book, and then I'm sitting on the couch with ice packs in pain. I can't do a thing. And over time, I realised there's no point in me pushing a book because I'm fighting against big business. I'm fighting against attitudes that say you should be doing X, Y, and Z and not a holistic approach. And so I went to the tutoring and I that started, and a few people had been following me and their children needed support, and it worked really well. So
if you had to start again at 60, when you decided I have to go solo, I don't want to re-educate.
Yeah.
What would you do differently?
Oh, that's a tough question. What would I do differently? I think I needed more support to do it all. I needed to have more support from a university or from a number of professors who were saying this is worthwhile. It's very difficult to sell just one book, and I haven't, I'm not an academic, so that's a problem. I'm a practical teacher, and I've now spent 20 or 30 years teaching children who really struggle. That knowledge is not valued, so I needed some more marketing skills. I needed greater marketing skills, and you need a lot of dollars. A lot of dollars. And I can't tell you how much I've put into my book. It's embarrassing. And I would do what I'm doing now, more private tutoring. Work on that, because that that promotes me and that brings in money.
I often, a lot of people talk to me about passion and purpose, these two words, and I always say profit first. You need gas in the tank, otherwise the car's going to stop. And if the car stops, you have to get out and take the bus, let's say.
Exactly what happened to me. And it was an outside incident that caused it, but it caused me to stop and say, well, what do you do now? And tutoring brings in profit.
Yeah, exactly. And then that frees you up a little bit of space to do the things that you want. Let's talk about next level. So where you are now, what's the next step? What's the next thing you're aiming at?
I think just more tutoring, just more private tutoring at the moment. That's my goal. If someone asked me to speak, I would do it. But just doing the private tutoring is more than enough for me. The competition for speaking just appears to be, on the too hard basket. Even though when I speak, people walk away gobsmacked is the word, with what I know, how I approach teaching, and how it's accessible to everybody. It's not accessible for a few. It's for all the kids in the classroom. And that surprises them. But that sell in this day and age, fighting against big business, because big business have got the grip on education. So I'm very happy with tutoring and consulting with parents and helping parents work with their children.
I think that's very smart. What's the big challenge or obstacle or risk you can think of with this approach? What's the thing that you're most concerned about?
People want it cheap. They want it quick. And the cost of me as an individual is quite expensive. I've got this knowledge from 30 years of teaching and working with children. My program is individualized to meet the needs of the child, and they want to do it for what? $20 an hour? I'm not a student. I'm an expert. That's the challenge. Well, you'll always find someone who'll do it for $20 an hour. Will they assist your child? They may not.
So let's talk now about what sort of strategies you're thinking about in terms of, so the way I would think of this is, okay, so I've got something of value that's not quite translating in terms of, okay, I need to pay for this value, right? There's something, there's a disconnect there maybe with some parents. So what kind of strategies have you adopted or are you adopting? You could talk about what hasn't worked, what has worked, what you think might work in the future. I think this could be super interesting for a lot of people listening.
You're making me think.
I like it.
The best thing I think I've done is spoken on YouTube a lot. I did a lot of speaking there, and that has gone around the world to various people. So I have a student from Nigeria at the moment, which is unusual. And promoting through my website and keeping up the blog so that people can follow me, and just promoting that I do the tutoring, the private tutoring, because people have seen the advertisement and come to me. That's my best. That's what I've been doing.
And so if somebody had a similar position to you, they wrote a book, they have something of value, and they're struggling to kind of translate that in the market, what would you advise to them? What would you tell them to do?
Say that again. What's your question?
Well, let's say I had a book and
Yes.
I was trying to show practical or give practical solutions to a common problem, and I was struggling to leverage that. I was struggling to get traction with that. What would you tell me to do?
Don't write the book.
Because?
You don't need one book. You need a series. And you need to promote, write. And you look at anything today, and I look at we've got grandchildren now, so there's a lot of kids' books out. It isn't one, but it's the same book in a different format. And that's what I should have done with my book. You know, they want that and then they want the next. The fact that it's the same stuff again and again and again in a different format, it's marketing, it's, you know, it's high level marketing, isn't it? It's doing everything to make maximum dollars from one idea or a few ideas. So there's a, you know, particular marketing strategy of writing and selling. Write and sell, whether it's good, bad or indifferent, just write it and sell it. It's unbridled, it's capitalism at the extreme.
What would stop you from now writing a series from this book?
For me to write effectively and at the level I want to write, I need support. I don't feel I can write to the level of this book without having a lot of editors. That's one. The second, again, is the promotion of the book. And you're right, you know, I should write a second book and a third. I really should, because there's so much information in there. But it takes a lot of effort on my part to do that. And it's the cost. If it's, you know, if I had support and had someone with me and do what I did and someone pay my editor, I'd be there writing it tomorrow, because it was my editor that turned my book around from being something you wouldn't read to make you say, oh, I can't put this down. You know, so that's, it's cost, and I'm trying to do it again, solopreneur, by myself.
So if I reframe this and said, it sounds to me like the next level is to find a way to keep writing the book and the series. Would that be a fair assumption?
Yes.
Well, it's interesting to me that you didn't say that, though. You said you wanted to just continue with the tutoring.
I get really caught, you know. Yes, I would love to write the next book because there's so much value in what I did when my son was 6. Took 20 years to evaluate what I did. Yet everything we're evaluating in schools is short term.
Can you tell us about that story about your son? Because I know it from our first conversation. Can you tell us a little bit about that so that people can understand what you're talking about?
Okay, my son failed first grade and he was called the worst child I've seen in 20 years of teaching. Okay, you're given that label, the child's not going to do anything. And I had the opportunity to work with him for 6 months. And during that time, I started by failure. I was going to teach him to read through letters and sounds, and he couldn't do it. My mother-in-law was with me and she said, Lois, put away what's not working and make learning fun. What do I do? He can rhyme words and he can see patterns. He's good at that. So I wrote one little poem. And one little poem led to the next and the next, and we're saying them, and he's illustrating them with my mother, and he's loving them. And instead of a kid being terrified, he's relaxed. And so that was the start. And then I wrote a poem about Captain Cook. Captain Cook had a book. Captain Cook had a notion there was a gap in the map in the great big ocean. Well, this tiny little poem, it's a bit longer than that, this tiny little poem led to his thinking. And he said to me, who came before Captain Cook? I said, that's easy, because that was Christopher Columbus. And he shoots back, and who came before Columbus? That question doesn't come from a child with a low IQ. And I needed that to see what he can and can't do. Okay, so he learns to read. He learns to love learning. 20 years later, he's finished his PhD in applied mathematics from Oxford University. And I say to him, Nicholas, tell me what happened in first grade, because I don't really know what happened. My son sat in front of me, confident and articulate, and cried. He couldn't get the words out. And that's when I recognised this was a traumatic experience for him that I haven't dealt with. No one's dealt with. We just shoved it under the carpet and pretended it didn't happen. And so I thought, I can't deal with that now. And so I said to him, Nicholas, tell me what happened when you and I learned. Now, instead of someone crying, he's laughing. And he said, I remember the poems you wrote for me, Mug of a Bug and Windmill on a Hill. And he said, you taught me about Captain Cook, and learning about Captain Cook taught me to love learning, and I never want to stop learning. And then he laughed, and he started to giggle like a 7-year-old, and he said, a poem about a witch's spell. I said, I did, Nicholas. It was a terrible poem. He said, but I wrote the ingredients to that poem. And he's giggling and giggling. And it was just so funny. Here I am, just astounded, because in my book, I didn't put that story. I didn't know that witch's spell poem was so powerful. And why didn't I put it in? Because I deemed the poem too bad. My writing was too bad. And I totally ignored the long-term consequences, or I didn't even know. Here's this man at 30 laughing over something he did when he was 7 years old. You can't measure that in schools. And that's what I need to write about, because it's not only learning about letters and sounds, but it's about the emotional connection to learning. And then what I really did was gave him a knife and fork, the letters and sounds, to eat the food on the table, so he could say, I love this learning stuff, and I really need this stuff that's really hard for me. But boy, I love it. And isn't it fantastic? It's the best in the world. That is not considered when we teach children who are struggling with reading.
It's such a powerful story. And even like that headline, from worst student of 20 years to Oxford graduate, just that alone, that's like a real hook, right? To get people to understand. There's something that seemingly, and I get it. I get that we need the marketing and we need the editors. That's funded though. Yes. So it's like, my question would be, why won't we find a way to get the resources to then build these books out?
It's interesting you say that, because I've contacted various university organisations, and not even university, but people that promote speech language impairment and dyslexia, and they have ignored me. Connecting with these people has not been easy for me.
Got it. So what if there was another way?
What is it? Tell it to me.
Well, because for me, it's like you already said it. Remember when we said we need gas in the tank?
Yes.
Well, how do we what if you could do it solo? What if you could find a way to keep putting gas in the tank, so that you ultimately get to the place where you can get the support that you need from a marketing perspective, from a editing perspective, so you can self-finance this without worrying about other people paying attention to it.
Yeah. Self-finance, yes. Keep going.
Well, I think that's next level for you. I think next level is how do we find a way to get people's attention without going through the status quo?
Yeah. Richard Branson, Kate Griggs. I mean, I haven't contacted Richard Branson, but Kate Griggs' organisation on dyslexia I have, and that's been ignored. Speech language in Oxford has been ignored. The universities, some university professors have taken up my book and said read, and had education students read the book. That's
well let me so here's the interesting thing. You just said something that was so profoundly true. It's not just about the letters and the words, it's about connecting emotionally. Okay, well, we need to connect with people emotionally about the story. And I think that's it sounds to me like a grassroots movement. So you imagine the next Richard Branson who's coming up in this world and is making money and has a son like this. That's the person I think we need to get the attention of. Because the problem with the attention span of these people is that it's very small, because everyone wants something from them. Whereas you're giving something to people. You're not asking anyone for anything. And so we have to go with the people that want what you have, and they don't want what you have. They think that you want something from them, which you do.
You're right.
So I think it's just a reframe. Let's find people that want what I have, not let's find people who I want what they have.
And I love that. Say that again.
We want to find the people that want your knowledge.
Yes.
Not the people who you want their knowledge.
Yes. I love that. I have to write it down because otherwise I forget.
Well, this is recorded, thankfully. I love this conversation. We can talk we talked so much in the first meeting. I wish we recorded that in many ways.
Yes.
I think we've reached this is the kind of conversation that I wanted to have for the audience, because we're thinking together and we're trying to work it out together, because nobody knows the next step really. I meet a lot of people that say, oh, I know what the next step is. And then I speak to them a couple of years later and it's like it's a completely different path to what they expected. And what I loved about you is you were open. You're open to, okay, because I sense that there's this thing that you want to create, and you might have either maybe not given up on it entirely, but you might have thought, you know what? Yeah, I don't want to think about that because it's too difficult, and I'd rather just focus on the stuff I can do and I know how to do. And where's the fun in that, Lois? Right?
You're absolutely right. And I think I've missed someone like you through this whole journey. Someone who can help you think about what else can you do? How can we do this a little more effectively? Trying to do it on your own, and the problem is trying to do it on your own is very time consuming. So how do you reach out to X, Y, and Z plus trying to do da 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 da? It was just too much. And my son said, when you're not being paid for it, it's volunteering.
100%. And it's also like, it's again, you're pushing the car or you're walking up the hill instead of driving up the hill.
Yes.
It's draining. I've been
yes.
there. And so everyone who listens to this has been there. There's no doubt about that at some level. But yeah, I love this conversation, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if you can create this vision, because I think it's obviously a very important story. And I'm 100% sure your son's not the only person who had this issue, and you're not the only mom who had this issue. So it's not just that this hopefully inspires solopreneurs, it's inspiring mothers and fathers who may have given up on their kids to think, okay, hold on, there is a way here, and let's see if we can find it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's right. Yeah. Find those who want me. Yes.
I love it. 45 seconds. In 45 seconds, would you, and you can take your time with this first, summarize where we're leaving this conversation?
We're leaving this conversation with a thought of where do we move on, and start reaching out to people and continue to reach out for those who want my knowledge, not the other way around. Think about getting that second book together so we have more to promote. I like that.
I like it a lot. Where can people find out about you?
My email and my website is loisletchford.com. Connect on my website is the easiest way and best way to connect with me.
So what would they do on your website when they get on there?
It'll see my teaching. You've got some videos, whatever. But okay, we're also going to offer anyone who connects with me through this podcast, you write the word Mo and I will offer you a free book and a free consultation.
Amazing. So they would go on your website, they go to the contact form, and they'd say to you, I heard you on Mo's podcast, and you would offer them one of your books reversed and a free consultation on.
And free consultation. Yeah.
Oh, that's something.
And when you come onto the website, the first thing is, a box, contact Lois, or contact me. And even if you just write Mo, then you'll need I need an address so I can post the book to you, or I can give you an ebook. Either way.
Amazing. That's so generous of you. I love that. And I can't wait to release this and see what people think about it. And I'm really happy to have met you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
The difference between surviving and thriving often comes down to a single shift in perspective. Maybe today's conversation sparked something for you, or maybe it confirmed what you already knew. I'm going to keep exploring what it takes to reach the next level. For more solopreneur stories, hit subscribe. And if you know someone who'd be perfect for the team of one, please introduce us on LinkedIn. See you next time. Peace.